So I'm gonna explain who's stronger, Goku, Superman, or One Punch Man, Saitama. Now, if you're familiar with my show, I like to do a little bit more of a narrative analysis and not so much a kind of criticism about something be out of place or somebody's costume randomly changing. I don't really care about that stuff. I like to take a bit of a step back and just analyze things from a more narrative or meta view type of thing. Now, this comparison is already very popular. These are very popular characters, even though Saitama is relatively new compared to the other ones. Still, they're all wickedly powerful, so we all want to know which one's the most powerful. And definitely many other YouTubers covered it because it's such an interesting topic. But what most YouTubers, other ones do, even big name ones, is that they tend to convert a lot of the acts or feats done by the characters, turn that into a number, and quantify their strengths based on their feats. Then we compare their quantified power levels. And while that can be really interesting to watch, cause math is interesting, and seeing all the different feats of the different characters, that can also be fun psychologically to remind us of the characters that we do love and remember the awesome moments that they've had if we are familiar with these characters. But I'm not gonna do that, because I think I know what we all know, what most anyone knows who watches a lot of these power fantasies, that numbers don't matter. None of the numbers matter. It's all BS in the end anyway. They're all pretty much infinitely powerful. So the real restrictions and the real differences among them are more narrative differences. And that's what I'm going to talk about. So when it comes to Goku and Superman and Saitama, arguably the most limited one is Goku. Because we know while Goku might have arguably infinite potential, that he can always grow and become more powerful and to be Super Saiyan 3 or 4, God form, this, red, all that, like he's gonna keep getting more powerful. And we can say he has a potential to be infinitely powerful. He could possibly defeat Beerus one day. We don't know. Why should we ever think he's ever gonna truly stop in becoming the greatest warrior? He's Goku after all. He's freaking Goku, a Super Saiyan. So Goku can ever growth, but the idea of ever growing and always potentially infinitely growing doesn't mean the same thing as already being infinitely powerful. Goku is, unlike Superman as many have noted, an actual martial artist. He has to learn techniques, he has to learn instant transmutation, he has to learn Kamehameha, he learns stuff, he learns techniques, he has to train, and he becomes more powerful. He's a martial artist, and that's why he has restrictions on his power, narratively wise. Because while shows definitely do initially start us off with feats that we do understand, like in Dragon Ball Z, when we measure the guy's shotgun, a farmer, his shotgun is power level 50, and then we're supposed to kind of have an understanding of the power levels as they slowly grow in comparison to that earlier one, relatively speaking. And with, say, Superman, we can kind of sort of understand the strength it might take to punch him through a concrete wall, not realistically, but understand how we see equipment break a concrete wall, and surely Superman must be at least that strong, and from that comparably relatively understand Superman's strength, as it seemingly boundlessly grows as well. But like I said, all of that's nonsense. Both of their powers, Goku and Superman's, go to such great levels of being almost basically omnipotent at some point in time. Yeah, Goku, we can always see more greater powers, more greater entities there like Beerus, but so could have been the same in DC with Superman. There were definitely greater god powers in that universe. But Superman doesn't have to train or do martial arts like Goku to become basically omnipotent, all-powerful. All Superman has to do is meditate in the center of the sun. Listen, I don't know if you've ever heard Superman Prime story. Was it called Superman Prime? Anyway, Superman goes and meditates in the center of the sun for basically 1,000 years, comes out, boom, he's basically a god. He can do anything, punch holes in reality, he breaks the wall of the edge of the universe or whatever. And if you want to listen to more about that comic and how powerful Superman can become just by pretty much meditating in the center of the sun, I'll give you a link here to, I think, a good YouTube video explaining that kind of story about Superman Prime and what he's capable of doing. These characters can go to extreme lengths. If we try to measure them at their top, their powers become basically infinite and nonsensical. But Superman is less restricted than Goku because Superman doesn't have to go through a growth. He pretty much is already powerful, he just has to be gaining his power source, i.e. the sun. It's not like he's gotta grow and do techniques and stuff like that. He just is always powerful. And that was one of the great problems with Superman actually. See, Superman had a great problem, what I call the Hercules Effect. Now, you see, back in ancient times when we used to talk about great stories of great heroes, the Greco-Roman heroes were all of the greats, and one of those heroes was Hercules. Except Hercules was novel at first because he's always super strong. Children were excited to maybe hear it, but the excitement goes off very quickly as the novelty wears off. Who does Hercules fight? Doesn't matter, Hercules wins. Oh, Hercules is fighting Cyclops? Who's gonna win? Hercules. It's always going to be Hercules who has more strength and more power and therefore wins through strength alone. And that made his stories boring. This is a basic thing that happened to Superman too. His novelty wore off also, him being just always more powerful. They had to literally create and invent kryptonite to be a weakness to Superman because otherwise it was just literally too boring. So they did that, and a lot of the times, a lot of the struggles with Superman seem to be more so about him holding back his power because he doesn't want to hurt the enemy, what makes you kind of think, dude, Superman, what the heck's wrong with you? Why have you been holding back your power this whole time when all these enemies have been threatening like major cities in the world? You telling me this whole time you just been holding back power when you could have like not risk the lives of millions of people? What have you been doing this whole time? Like seriously? Now you're gonna release your true power and strength because now you're actually angry? What the fuck, Superman? And whenever Superman does reveal that kind of monologue that he does about his internal struggles, about how he's actually ultimately powerful, but he's gotta hold back his power, and now he's not gonna hold back, kind of betrays any struggle that happened before it. And some people don't like that about Superman. So while those are narrative problems, still, narratively speaking, that means Superman is much less restricted in terms of power than Goku is. Goku is restricted because he needs to grow through some sort of sensible fashion. Yet Superman doesn't need to grow through sensible fashion, but Superman does need to have some kind of little bit of sensible explanation. Because in the end, we know their power is basically magic. But in the universe of DC, Superman's weakness is actually magic. So they can't really say it's magic for why he's so strong. They kind of try to make up some kind of pseudoscientific reasoning as to how Superman gets his power, explaining his cells and how it's photosynthesis is happening and stuff like that. You can make a lot of pseudoscientific jargon in shows if you want to. Heck, you can start whole sci-fi series with that kind of stuff. Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever. Pseudoscientific jargon really helps us get over the idea that these things are at least supposed to be somewhat sensibly explained in their own universes. So Superman does have that sort of narrative limitation that they are trying to explain it in some sort of fashionable sense, whereas Goku definitely has more because Goku has to grow and they need to explain it fashionably. But Superman just has to be sort of explained. He doesn't need to grow. He already is kind of all-powerful already. But on the most extreme end, we have Saitama. And for those of you who don't know, Saitama is basically the main character in One Punch Man, an anime that got super popular, and it got super popular for those of us who are already familiar to many of the superhero tropes. Because this anime isn't for somebody new to superheroes or new to anime, it's somebody who's actually quite familiar because they make fun of and they parody all the nonsensical stuff in superhero things. So One Punch Man is purposefully nonsensical. One Punch Man doesn't just not need to make sense, One Punch Man is purposely not making sense. So in Saitama's world, all the characters, at least all the monsters and a lot of the heroes, sort of become that way because they had an obsession about something. If you obsess about something, you sort of begin to embody that thing physically or through your powers. And that's how heroes and villains get created. Now Saitama's obsession, what he wanted to be, was so powerful that he could defeat any enemy with one punch, so he could just be a casual superhero and pretty much just destroy any enemy, casually speaking. And that kind of creates his problem of how he can now never have any meaning being a superhero because he just destroys everybody. But that's his thing. His thing then is that he's just gonna beat everyone. He's just gonna beat everyone with one punch. Now that's how it is for the first 2 seasons, and things might change in later seasons, but I'm just talking about the first 2 seasons for now, so don't judge me if they change this later on. Pretty much that's how it is right now in the first 2 seasons. One Punch Man is a lot less narratively restricted than Goku or Superman. One Punch Man is nonsensically and purposefully nonsensically capable of basically defeating anybody. It is so much so that it is a meta-narrative, that it goes outside of the comics itself. It goes outside of the story because it's trying to engage with us, the readers or the audience, who understand that they're poking fun of tropes in the entire genre itself. Them doing that gives Saitama a sort of meta connection to us as readers to know that we shouldn't be expecting any kind of reasonable explanation. And in fact, that's part of the fun storyline in the story, that the other characters in the show want some kind of explanation, and whenever Saitama gives one, it's just like, wait, that can't be it. Like, what is the real explanation? There is none. And really, we know there's no real explanation to Superman's powers or Goku's powers either, because it doesn't really make true scientific, realistic sense how these beings could be. We don't have any actual theories to explain how this is even possible. But hey, there is some sort of explanation of Goku being an alien, needing to do training, doing techniques and stuff like that, and growing slowly, possibly having infinite growth. But that is a limitation he has. Infinite growth is still not fully infinite. Continual growth is not the same thing as infinite. So in the end, Goku has more narrative limitations than either of the two. And One Punch Man has less limitations than the other two. This makes Goku's powers more limited and therefore less than the other two. And this makes Saitama's power greater and less restricted than those other two. In the middle, we have Superman. Now, you might think this is Superman having the best of both worlds. And hey, that's a matter of your own perspective. Glass half full or glass half empty. For me, I see it as glass half empty. Because while Goku is therefore somehow more restricted narratively, it also makes him much more interesting. But on the other hand, Saitama doesn't get to be completely devoid of interest like Hercules was, because he's a meta character poking fun at tropes, because it's an inside thing. So he doesn't get that criticism, and it didn't work evenly. It's asymmetric. Therefore, Goku is the most interesting, even though the most limited. And Saitama still is interesting and fun, even though he's the most powerful. I kinda think this puts Superman in the middle, getting the bad end of both of these things. But hey, that might be my bias towards Superman because I have a number of maybe social psychological reasons why I do not like Superman, and maybe I'll explain them on another channel or something like that. But that's just my personal opinion. If you love Superman, go ahead, love him off, get a tattoo, wear his clothes, go cosplay, do everything. Love any character you want, there's no hate here at all. But narratively wise, Saitama is less restricted than the other two. One Punch Man. And Goku, oh, he subscribes to my channel. So if you want to be like Goku, you should subscribe to my channel, because in the next video, I'll teach you how to do a Kamehameha.